Hello everyone. Today I'm going to be talking to you ladies that grew up with an absent father. Whether your father started a new family and completely forgot about you, or just never made you a priority in his life. Or you ladies may have had a father that continued to make humans with different baby mamas and never took care of them. He just went on selfishly with his life, not caring about anybody in the world but himself. And because of it, you ended up fatherless. Whatever the reason was that your father left or was absent from your life, ultimately, it was their choice, not yours, to be part of your life. In this episode, I'm also talking to you fathers out there that chose to do this, that for some reason you chose to put your daughter at the bottom of the list of priorities, whether it was done purposely or not. Maybe it'll make some fathers think that are doing that currently right now. Rethink the situation. If you grew up with an absent father like I did, you probably developed fatherless daughter syndrome. So today I'm going to be talking about this fatherless daughter syndrome and the effects that it has on our lives that follows us all the way up to adulthood. And please stick around to the end because I'm going to be sharing some tools that my therapist gave me, along with some great books that helped me through my pain, began healing, and created a happier life for myself. And listen, I'm not going to lie, I'm still struggling with the pain, and sometimes I have better days than others. But these books have helped me snap back into perspective of all the things that I need to be focusing on to live a happier life. So let's dive in and talk about it so we can walk this journey on healing the father wound together. Fatherless daughter syndrome refers to the potential emotional and psychological challenges a daughter may face due to the absence or emotional unavailability of a father figure, potentially leading to difficulties in relationships, trust, and self-worth. According to the U.S. Census for 2023, 17.6 million children, and that's nearly 1 in 4 children, live without their biological father or an adoptive father in their life. And that is enough to fill New York City twice or Los Angeles 4 times over. And although these census include sons and daughters, today I'm going to be focusing on the daughters that get left behind due to an absent father. And I feel like this is less talked about. There are many ways we could lose our father. Incarceration, drugs, you name it. They just wanted to be gone, whatever your story was. But today I'm going to be talking about specifically those fathers that chose to be absent and didn't make you a priority in their life after him and your mom broke up, and the effects it had on you as a child and all the way up to adulthood. Some of y'all watching this or listening to this on the podcast may have not even realized that the things that you're going through could be due to your father being absent. Emotionally, all the things you're dealing with, relationship-wise. So this would benefit you, and if you don't mind sharing it with someone you think would benefit, that would be great to spread the word out there and get more women like me that had to deal with that, and yourself, get some healing. So that way they could have the life they should be experiencing, a happy life, a life of peace, and not crying all the time and wondering why everything they do just crumbles and they can't seem to be happy, and they cry all the time for no reason. So please share this with a friend or a family member you think would benefit from it. Maybe your story was that your parents were married and got a divorce. Maybe they never got married and they had you, and a little bit after they separated. Whatever it was, studies show that daughters whose fathers were absent after the separation, or whose fathers were purposely absent, carry deeper wounds than those who lose their father to death. Now, as surprising as this may seem, having a father that's absent, the pain of feeling abandoned in a divorce or due to any kind of separation from your mom and dad can cut deeper and far longer, sometimes hunting you as a daughter way into adulthood. And sadly, in the chaos of divorce, your mom and father get consumed so much in blaming each other and just rebuilding their own lives. For example, like, I don't need him, I'm going to find somebody else that's better. Or I don't need her, I'm just going to find somebody else that's better for me and better looking. They completely forget about the children and how they're feeling. Basically, in chasing their own freedom and happiness, they often, and in all fairness, probably not intentionally, leave their daughter feeling unseen, unheard, and just abandoned in the middle of all the wreckage. There's a quote by Ralph Emerson that says, "Of all the ways to lose a person, death is the kindest." Now, to some of you, that might sound harsh, but to us fatherless daughters, that makes all the sense in the world. Because honestly, knowing that our father is still alive somewhere, and maybe even like only a couple miles away from you, and he chooses not to make you a priority and be part of your life, that's just a pain that lingers and never goes away throughout your whole life. It's basically a wound that opens in every birthday, every silent milestone, and every unanswered question. When someone is gone due to death, or when a father is gone due to death, at least there's that finality to it all, There's a reason. A reason he didn't call and check up on you. A reason he never showed up for graduation. And just a reason to show up and say, I'm proud of you about something. So when he's alive and simply just absent, that silence cuts deeper than death ever could. So what do you as a fatherless daughter experience? Well, you just felt like you weren't worth enough for your father's love. You saw your dad as leaving as a sign that you were not worth staying around for. Or you weren't worth him working things out with your mother so he could be around you. It's just our perception, not a fact. You tend to miss your father as a fatherless daughter because you just remember the way he used to be and how you miss that and how you don't have that anymore. And unable to let go of the past, you make up stories in your head to justify why they're not calling or being part of your life. As a fatherless daughter, you never had that father and daughter talk that other girls that have a father do. At school events, you saw other girls' fathers show up, but yours never did. If you ever did visit your father, or if he ever came to visit you sometimes, once every blue moon, you wanted to ask why he was so absent all the other times that you didn't see him throughout the years, but you just didn't. And the reason why this is because you hold back, because you don't want to sever that little tiny bit of relationship you're holding on to with him. You already think that he doesn't want to be around you, so you think if you stir things up, he's definitely not going to want nothing to do with you. So you just kind of bottle it up inside and continue to pretend like everything's okay. And as a fatherless daughter, you stop being a child too soon. And what you start thinking about is how you're going to survive by yourself because you don't have them around. Overall, fatherless daughters get stuck in this roller coaster of not knowing why he doesn't call, why he doesn't see us. Does he still even love us? We ask ourselves, has he completely forgotten about us? And then once you're on top of that roller coaster, is the big drop, but this one never ends, to the point where we think he has forgotten about us, and we're on our own. We have no father. And that is when the sadness and depression starts. But we don't realize where this depression and sadness completely is coming from, because we don't want to think badly of our father. We don't want to speak badly of him because we just want him around because we miss him and we love him. But we're still feeling these feelings and keep bottling these things up throughout the years. And we continue to defend our father, put him up in a pedestal, make him feel like he's just, I mean, not make him feel, but tell the people that he's just the greatest father in the world. I guess we're just trying to convince ourselves that he is, because if we don't, the truth about it just hurts too damn bad. And a lot of us, and maybe you listening to this podcast episode or watching this video online, the cause of this pain may not come into realization until you're an adult and you have that bad breakup, or you have that horrible divorce, or you have yet again ended up with a man that you're not sure why you chose him or why you're still around. Only then do we start looking back at our lives and start doing some deep self-reflection and realize that the big reason why we made the choices we made and hurt the way we do, or just simply cry and listen to a stupid song that is not even sad, is due to our fathers choosing to be absent in our lives. We start asking ourselves as fatherless daughters, why do we keep choosing the wrong man? Why do we get so emotional when other people don't and do not know how to express our feelings, and other people have it so, they're so cool and collected? And this affects us at work too. And it just makes us angry because we wish we could just be as cool as collected and self-regulate like other people. And why do we just keep staying in relationships and friendships that don't benefit us? And as a matter of fact, they're holding us down. We start asking all these questions then when something drastic like that happens in adulthood. But before then, we don't truly pinpoint what's really happening with us. And it holds us back a lot in life. It really does. Maybe after your mom and dad broke up and you visited a couple of times, and during the few visits you had with him, you saw that he did know how to father. He showed up for that new family. He cared. He was present. And that's when it hit you. He was capable of being a dad, just not to you. Or maybe your dad just continued to be the same old guy and just kept making babies with different women and didn't care for any of them. And then sometimes, just when you think your life won't get worse, your mom ends up with somebody that doesn't love you, who might abuse you and her. They may even start a family of their own. And your stepfather lets it be known with his actions or through words that you are not part of the family. You are not loved like his children. You are basically just there because he has to put shelter over your head and food in your mouth, or else he will be in trouble. You feel like an orphan. And as a child, as a little girl, in your mind, that is just a reminder of how you are not worthy of love from your dad or any fatherly figure. Yet again, another pain from someone who should have filled in the gap that your father left behind. So once again, you're forgotten, the forgotten daughters. That's what we were. We were simply forgotten. I know. I've been there. I've been where you are. I am too a fatherless daughter. I suffer from the father wound. Daughters are not often validated in the pain they carry or the struggles they go through due to their fathers being absent. If they're angry, they're labeled as a bad child. If they deal with anxiety or other mental health issues, some parents and other relatives think they're just making it up. If they seek attention from boys, they're just seen as rebellious or being fast. But rarely ever does anybody stop to think, either mom or dad, that maybe, just maybe, this was caused because the father wasn't around or chose to be absent. So the first time I was validated about my father wound and what I was going through was through a movie. Some of y'all might have seen it. If you haven't, you should go pick it up. Maybe it's in your library for free. I don't know, but a lot of you guys, you could just stream it. It's called The Sisterhood of the Traveling Pants, and they have two parts. I'm talking specifically about part one. In this movie, I'm talking about Carmen's character. So when you watch it, I'm talking about Carmen's character, the two scenes specifically that show this father wound and what we go through and the pain we go through, and basically how we feel as daughters that got basically forgotten by their dad. The first scene, and although this scenes might not be specifically the same thing that happened in your story with your dad, it still explains, or kind of like put in perspective to somebody a little bit of what we go through. So the first scene I'm talking about, and you don't even have to get the movie to see this scene, you could just search Sisterhood of the Traveling Pants Carmen dinner scene. Carmen goes to visit her dad. She visits him only twice a year, which is a lot more than, you know, what a lot of us did seeing our dad. Sometimes I went a couple years without seeing him. And anyways, she went to see him, and he had not told her that he was getting married again. Her and her soon-to-be stepmother went to the tailor to get her bridesmaid dress fitted. And Carmen, you know, basically the dress didn't fit her at all. And it didn't fit her because her dad never even talked to her, so he didn't know anything about her, including her dress size. So basically, Carmen, you know, went back in and said, look, this is not going to work. This is not going to fit me. And she went inside the dressing room. Well, the tailor and her soon-to-be mom were talking, and she heard the tailor, Carmen heard the tailor said, the other one, as if she was nobody, instead of calling her by her name. And since she already was experiencing abandonment from her dad and all the things, you have to watch the movie to see what I'm saying, about how he was putting everyone first, and his fiance was crying, boo-hooing about the wedding place that it had been canceled. His daughter only seen him twice a year. That shouldn't have been priority, or it shouldn't have been like, oh my gosh, the end of the world because the place that they wanted to celebrate their wedding, their reception area, is canceled. So at that point, basically what I'm trying to say, she had already had enough. And when they called her the other one, as if she wasn't part of the family anymore, as that she wasn't part of her dad anymore, she just got pissed off, and she told the tailor, hey, the other one, my name is Carmen, I'm not the other one. She storms off by herself. She's gone all day and night. Her dad, her fiance, they do not know where she's at. She comes back in a cab and gets out the car, sits down in the front porch of her dad's house, and all the lights are off, to the point where the cab said, are you sure somebody's home? I don't think nobody's home. They're probably out looking for you. And she said, it's fine. But then after she sits in the front porch for a little while, she hears some laughing. And she goes to the back porch in the back of the house, where the dining room is at, and she sees her dad, his fiance, and her two children sitting down, as if they weren't worried about Carmen. They were just going on about their lives, laughing, eating. And so Carmen, of course, understandably got upset. And she started walking away, but she got so angry, she threw a rock at the window. Now, I'm not condoning any violence, but that makes, especially a child, pretty angry, as you could imagine. The second scene was when Carmen went back home, and her friend encouraged her to call her dad to tell him how she really felt and how he disappointed her and hurt her and basically abandoned her mentally and physically. He basically said, I'm sorry, to her, which is a lot more than what a lot of us fatherless daughters get, because some of us don't even get an I'm sorry. But she said, I wish that was enough, Dad. And the reason why we would say something like that, us as fatherless daughters, is because a lot of people could say they're sorry, and that's good. That's a start. But if you really love us, you have to show that you're going to be there for us now, that you're going to be present. So, can any of you comment below about any other shows or movies where there's a fatherless daughter, where a fatherless daughter or fatherless daughter syndrome is being explained? Because I couldn't find any other movies or shows. I know that The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, Will Smith did an excellent job on the famous scene that you guys, I'm sure, seen out there, about him talking about his dad never being there. But I just never seen this done with fatherless daughters, whose dads just have been absent from their lives. So, what are some of the effects you as a fatherless daughter experience throughout life? Number one, low self-esteem. The lack of a father's affirmation growing up and support can lead to feelings of inadequacy and a diminished sense of worth. You will constantly try to get validation from others so you could feel worthy of love. So this may include you struggling to trust people because you feel like they're just going to let you down. You accept less than you deserve in relationships and friendships. You apologize when you haven't even done anything wrong. And you basically have a fear of putting yourself out there due to rejection. You battle deep feelings of unworthiness or being unlovable. And you overall compare yourself to all other women and other people, but mostly women, and mostly those that do have their fathers around, as if that was comparable. But at that age, especially when you're younger, and even when you're an adult and you don't have this sorted through, you think you're going to be the same as another person that has actually had their father around. But the truth is, we learn later that that's nowhere near the truth, because they had the tools and the support and the love that made them who they were. So we are not even the same level as them until we get healing. And you overcompensate in love. You give a lot of love but expect very little back from friends, family, and relationships. The second thing that fatherless daughters experience is trust issues and fear of abandonment due to rejection, stemming from the lack of consistent and reliable fatherly figure. Without a strong, loving father figure, you didn't learn who to look for in a man, or what a respectful, supportive relationship should actually look like or feel like. Many of us weren't shown real love by our father. It's just what it boils down to. And sometimes not even by our stepmothers or our own mother. So basically, like I'm saying, we never grew up knowing what true love really looked or felt like. And as a result, you didn't end up with men that treated you really well. And you might be with a man right now that's not treating you really well, or a friend that you really need to get rid of. And you may leave before you get left. If you think someone's getting ready to break up with you, you do it first, because it just feels safer that way, because you feel like at least then you're in control of the heartbreak. And this one, I think, happens more often than others. You just hold on too long. While others will not hold on to a relationship, you hold on to it for years. So for example, I stayed in my first marriage for almost a decade, but the marriage was over in a year. I knew that. And I and you as a fatherless daughter do this because letting go of that man could feel like another abandonment, and that scares you to death. And we rather hold on to that pain of that relationship than face abandonment and loneliness again. So we basically stayed not because the relationship was okay. We were afraid of feeling that abandonment again, of feeling that emptiness inside. And sometimes that feeling, they say, comes out as anger. And I remember getting angry sometimes, and I didn't know where that anger was coming from. And it was just that deep desire to be chosen and not abandoned, and just for someone to really love and want me and not abandon me again. So another thing that fatherless daughters experience is difficulty forming healthy relationships. We as fatherless daughters struggle to set healthy boundaries or make sound decisions. And we may be susceptible to bad influences in relationships. You may not even notice bad patterns that you keep repeating, and your friends and family tell you you are repeating, because we got so used to with our ways of coping and protecting ourselves that we don't recognize those as father wounds. So an example of this is back to my first relationship. Before we got married, he had cheated on me. And when he came back wanting to reconcile and then wanted to marry me, I didn't sit down and set any boundaries at all. I didn't even know what a boundary was. I hadn't even heard of boundaries until recently when I started reading books, listening to podcasts, and listening to, YouTube videos or other platforms talking about boundaries. So a lot of us weren't modeled boundaries, or we didn't have a father that told us, hey, you need to set boundaries, so the guy's, just going to take advantage of you. So we didn't know to set boundaries. I just got married. That's all it was. I'm glad he's back. I'm glad he wants me and he's going to be with me. That's all I was thinking about. I want someone to love me. And although he treated me horrible, I still chose to have a child with him. And that's what we do. That's how we keep repeating this cycle. And if you're currently in a relationship right now, you as a fatherless daughter that still has not realized why you keep making these wrong choices, but you know to yourself that you should not be with this man, please, at the least, get on some reliable birth control. Use birth control and a condom. Both. Prevent it is at all cost, because this is not your person. This is not the person you want to have your child with. The child is going to end up broken. And it's very selfish of you to not prevent that. And I know that we are not perfect, and I'm not perfect. I didn't think about it either. That's the whole reason of this podcast. Hopefully I could spread the word out there to make someone else think twice about getting pregnant by a man who's not going to father their child. And yes, women do it too. And I have a whole nother episode about that, where men should not be choosing the mother they did for their child. But we're talking about fatherless daughters, so I'm going to stick with that today. But women, just prevent it at all costs at the least, and eventually get help and leave the guy. I'm telling you something good. You're wasting your time. And in relationships, you may be overly controlling, because as long as you're in control, you feel like you can't get hurt. And this is not healthy for a relationship. Basically, what it boils down to with this is that for the adult daughter who grew up without a father, the fear of being left can overpower even her most rational thoughts. Another effect of fatherless daughter syndrome is emotional detachment. So right about the age my daughter was, whenever I got separated from my dad, I stopped hugging her. I consistently dismissed and ignored my children's feelings or emotional needs. I failed to provide comfort, validation to my children. I failed to provide just basic listening when my children were upset or just expressing their feelings. Instead, I would say stupid things like, toughen up, it's a hard world out there, you better just toughen up. Another challenge we may deal with is difficulty expressing our emotions. We struggle with our emotions. We go from between pain and anger, and it's like there's no other emotion in between. Yes, we get happy, we laugh sometimes, but when things go wrong, it's either pain or emotion, and there's no talking it out. No trying to self-reflect, no emotional intelligence whatsoever. That's where I used to go, mostly anger. I used to go to anger and then pain, anger and pain, depression and anger. And this goes on until you get therapy, until you get parenting classes, until you get coping skill classes. So I recommend that. And to others looking at us, our big emotions that we have may be overwhelming for them because they don't understand. They've never been through it. So keep in mind when you have a friend and they might just leave and be like, I'll talk to you later. It's not that they don't care about you, even though they should communicate with you. So that way you could explain to them how you feel, and maybe they'll understand and kind of help you through that. But it's very uncomfortable for other people to see our big emotions that haven't experienced that. Another effect of being fatherless is mental health issues like anxiety or depression. So we're constantly worried about abandonment. We overthink everything, especially in relationships. And this feeling could stem from feeling unsafe and unsupported as a child. And if we ever had a heartbreak when we were teenagers, when we got a little first love and stuff like that. It was drastic. Basically, it was the end of the world for us, versus those that had their father around. So just know that it was normal for you to feel that pain for months and months and maybe a year, and you still didn't get over a breakup. It's normal, but it shouldn't be, because had your dad been around, this wouldn't be a thing, because you feel like you're basically getting abandoned again, and that's just another reminder that you're not worthy to be loved and you're not worthy to stick around for. And you may fall into depression. You have feelings of emptiness, sadness, hopelessness, and then you just have low motivation. And this happens when your emotional needs were ignored or unmet by your father. So I have suffered from depression all my life. And due to my father being absent and my mother later on marrying a man that basically, like I said before, let it be known that we weren't part of the family, we weren't his daughters. He was just basically couldn't wait to get us out of there. He was just doing what he had to do because he wanted to be with my mom. I mean, it was obvious through actions and words that he said. So it wasn't something that we were just perceiving. He actually said, some of those things. So I really felt like I belonged to no one, because my father was absent. My mom was whatever. She was trying to keep the peace. She had 5 children, that was a big factor too. Either way, I felt like I had no one at that point. And my stepfather, of course, he didn't step in as a fatherly figure. As a matter of fact, he didn't want me around. And it was so sad for me that at 13, I attempted to unalive myself. So you fathers out there that are listening to this podcast or to this video, if you even care about your daughter and you have not seen her in a while or talked to her, pick up that phone and call her and ask her mom if you could come see her, or if she could come see you, if she could stay for the summer. I mean, school is out all summer. Make an attempt. Do the best you can to be there for your daughter. So how about you? What are some of the mental challenges you went through as a fatherless daughter due to your dad being absent? Another effect that fatherless daughters go through is fear of intimacy. They may struggle from close and meaningful relationships. You basically tell yourself you're better off alone. That way no one can disappoint you or leave you. No one can get close enough to even hurt you. Some of us developed unhealthy relationship patterns. Some of us fatherless daughters, well, a lot of us, that we tend to gravitate to abusive men or unavailable men, because that's the way our fathers were, unavailable. Basically seeking the love and validation they lacked from their father. Without mental healing, we just go to what's familiar. If your father, say for example, he was absent, you find someone that's always absent from your life, whether he's a workaholic and he's always gone from the house. We find emotional absent partners. If your father was abusive, you find someone that's abusive, whether mentally or physically, or both. When fathers are emotionally absent, I want fathers to hear this that even care. They unintentionally give their daughters silent permission to seek attention elsewhere. And they make them available to men that seek those type of girls or women. So you basically set them up for failure. Basically, you set them up to seek attention from anyone, any form of man, whether it's healthy or harmful for them. And us fatherless daughters do this just to feel something that even resembles connection, because we think it's going to make us feel better and feel loved. Another effect fatherless daughters struggle with, and I struggle with all of these, but I would say this was good and bad. I always struggle for perfection, and some of us over-idolize. I was always trying to do my best at school, trying to be the best worker at work, which we all know doesn't work. Most of the time, the person that gets a raise is the one that's the yes man to the manager. But it was bad because I just felt like my validation was, if I did good, I was going to get something good. That didn't always happen, and I always ended up crashing because of it. So we overachieve also to earn love. So we struggle in school, work, appearances, what outfit we're wearing, how we look, because believing that maybe if we're perfect, maybe someone will stay around enough to love us or stay with us. We fear failure or rejection. So mistakes to us don't feel like simple missteps. They feel like proof that we're just not good enough. And maybe you felt this. You may only feel valuable when you're achieving something or producing something, because deep down inside you feel like you have to earn love. You self-criticize yourself all the time. Even when you do something well, you're rarely satisfied. There's always something you could have done better. That internal voice that mirrors the lack of affirmation from your dad. Another thing us fatherless daughters struggle with is compulsive behavior, such as a relentless drive towards heroism, or this compulsion to sacrifice our true selves of who we really are to earn your father's favor. So this could be things like compulsive people pleasing, where you're constantly saying yes to requests from people, even when you're exhausted or you're uncomfortable about a certain situation, or just out of the fear of being abandoned or rejected again. And you often sacrifice your own needs. You have compulsive seeking of attention. So this means like you might go to great lengths, whether through social media, relationships, or work, to be seen or acknowledged, driven by the fact that you just want to feel visible and loved because you just didn't receive that attention from your father. You might be a compulsive overworker. And this is another one where you are driven by the need to prove your worth and avoid feeling inadequate. You may overwork yourself and you push your limits to achieve, perform, and just gain approvals from others. And eventually your identity will be tied to your productivity. You may have compulsive perfectionism. So as a fatherless daughter, you may always strive for flawlessness, may obsessively work to avoid mistakes, believing that imperfection is a reflection of your unworthiness or failure to meet expectations. You might be compulsive with your emotions. So sometimes we fear that showing vulnerability or weakness can lead to abandonment from others or judgment from others. You might repress your emotions or over-control them, avoiding any kind of emotional expression that could seem messy or out of control. Or you might have compulsive relationship building. You may jump into relationships too quick or stay too long in unhealthy ones, like I spoke about earlier. And this is driven by the need to feel validated and loved. Compulsive self-sabotage. You might yourself be doing this. Despite achieving success or happiness, you may just push people away, sabotage opportunities at work and relationships and life, or just create chaos out of fear of just being abandoned once again, or not measuring up to somebody. And this is a way just to avoid disappointment again. And you might have compulsive seeking of approval from father figures. If you have a stepfather, a mentor, a manager, or any male figure in your life, you may constantly seek their approval, their validation, sometimes in unhealthy ways. And this is to fill the void that your father left behind in his absence. Another thing fatherless daughters experience is academic setback. Without a father's support, a girl can struggle academically in school. A girl could have lack of motivation. Without a father's encouragement or guidance, you may struggle or may have struggled to stay motivated in school or pursue your full academic potential. The absence of that role model being your father in your life or emotional support can leave you feeling lost or unsure about any of goals that you might have. You may have had difficulty focusing in school. Emotional turmoil from your father being absent might have had distracted you. And it makes it to where it's harder for you to concentrate in your studies. Due to this, you may experience depression and anxiety, which further affects your ability to retain any information in school or stay in task. You may develop imposter syndrome. I had this when I first started this podcast, when my daughters encouraged me to do this. Gosh, it's probably been almost a year and a half ago, after I read the Fatherless Daughter Project, and I started realizing where a lot of my problems were stemming from. I started developing imposter syndrome because I felt like, who am I? I'm not going to make a difference. I'm nobody. I can't become successful at this. Instead of saying things like, it doesn't matter if I don't become big or if this doesn't go anywhere. At least even if I could change someone's mind, even one person, I'm making a difference. It doesn't matter. All that stuff doesn't matter to me anymore. But I started developing that because, first of all, I hadn't started therapy yet. Secondly, I just feel like I guess in a way, I still suffer from imposter syndrome. I feel like when I see people out there in YouTube, basically what I'm trying to say is, or they write a book and they talk about how they went from this to this and they became successful, I almost feel like, well, that's them. That's not going to ever happen to me. And I'm doing that with, me learning finances now, because I was never taught about all of us, that's a different subject. We're never taught about proper finances and stocks. I look at other people that have been successful at that. I'm like, well, that's not me. That's just them. I can't do that. So fatherless daughters do develop this because their father being there is such a strong impact that it makes us on his words, that he believes, if he says, I believe you could do anything you want to do. And it's one thing your mother's saying it, but in my opinion, it's something else. Maybe because I used to be a daddy's girl, that I would have felt like I could have been anybody in the world. I could have done anything. Because even with his absence, knowing that he actually went to law school and became an attorney was enough for me to know that I could finish college even and become successful. So I could only imagine if I had had him in my life and his words and his encouragement, I could have been so much greater. So basically, fatherless daughters, even though they achieve great success, you may feel like you never belong to a certain group, or you're truly capable of things. And you feel like if you're pretending that you really don't belong there. And this can lead to self-sabotage. You sabotage yourself and you get completely exhausted and sometimes burn out. Another academic setback to us fatherless daughters happen because we avoid academic challenges while other kids are going to early college, for example. We feel like that's just them. They could do that. I can't do that. Another imposter syndrome, I guess, tied up to this. But we just let opportunities go by that we could possibly have done, but we just kind of like shy away from it. And the reason why this is because we have fear of failure. So we play it safe. So we limit our potential out of fear that we're not good enough to succeed. And a very important academic thing that you can do is, as a lot of you guys know, is to network. Even with teachers, when you're younger, they could possibly set you up with a scholarship and you don't have to pay for college. But us fatherless daughters, we feel like we can't trust authority figures. We just feel like they too will let us down and disappoint us. And then some of us fatherless daughters, we fail academically or get academic setbacks because we get chronic stress or anxiety about the future us that our father and sometimes mother never talked to us about. So the uncertainty of our father and emotional pain surrounding our father's absence can make us feel, some of us, anxious about our future, and it causes a lack of clarity in our long-term goals. And sometimes this leads to procrastination or avoidance to academic responsibilities, and some of us just give up. And some of us fatherless daughters, as soon as we turn 16 or whatever the age may be now, they end up dropping out of school. Another effect of being a fatherless daughter is substance abuse. Now, this is more drastic, but it's a big problem. The reason why they turn to this is because we're trying to cope with our emotional pain. We don't want it to be there anymore, and the trauma that it causes with it. And we're too young to realize that we're causing a bigger problem. But that's just the way, some of us turn to substance abuse. For example, I started drinking a lot at one point. Thankfully, I caught it. It wasn't long because I started to realize that The only time I felt like I was happy was when I was drinking. And I'm not talking about just having two glasses of wine. I'm talking about getting drunk. And I was just basically trying to drown out the pain that I didn't know where it was coming from. I didn't know how to fix it. But I was very blessed because some women, they end up addicted and they end up homeless because of this and with a lot of substance abuse problems. And another thing that happens to us fatherless daughters is we have sexual health issues, including a more likelihood of having intercourse by the age of 16 or before. Foregoing contraception and becoming a teenage mom, and contracting sexually transmitted diseases because of it. And I wanted to explain something about, I know there's, a lot of guys out there that they like, and some women, they like to say daddy issues. And, it's funny when I'm in the mood for dark humor in some movies when they mention it or some podcasts or whatever. But the reality about us fatherless daughters is that we're not out there having relationships, having sex, going to the other one, and then repeating this just because we enjoy what we're doing, or we're just fast. The reason why we do this is because throughout our lives, we have seen, first of all, the TV or now the internet has raised us as far as trying to find fatherly figures and try to figure out the whole relationship deal. And we listen to songs which we know are not, most of them are not good advice. And what we get out of all this is that men like to get physical, and if they get physical with us, they stick around. So to me, when I was in a relationship, I would go there, get physical with the man, not because I wanted or enjoyed it, it's because I learned throughout my life that that's what they wanted and that's how they would stick around. It's pretty sad, actually. And a lot of people don't understand this. And ultimately, it makes us feel empty inside. It doesn't, because they end up leaving anyway, eventually. Because the right man that you're with it's going to wait, and it's not going to want that. They're going to really try to get to know you. But until a fatherless daughter heals and realizes that, they're going to continue doing those things and hurting themselves in that way because they want to keep a man around. And that's just the way we keep chasing closeness. We kept chasing closeness this way and the fear of abandonment. But it makes us feel more empty than before. And we all eventually have to realize that on our own. Well, being a fatherless daughter doesn't only affect us emotionally, it also affects our physical bodies. And I wanted to talk about that. This physical changes in our body as girls, I've seen often starts with, of course, the mother and father separation, but it worsens, when the father is absent, or, when the mother decides to get another partner, gets remarried. Some of those men that the mother's with may mistreat the mother or mistreat them, or both. And this causes our nervous system to get damaged worse and worse and worse as different situations start happening to us. And we start witnessing, and then we have no support from our family because a lot of times mothers move away from the father, just following behind this other man. This creates chaos, confusion, and just overall emotional instability in girls. And this all eventually leads to what is called toxic stress. According to the Center of the Developing Child at Harvard University, toxic stress occurs when a child faces strong, frequent, and prolonged adversity without the protective buffer of a supportive relationships. So if a mother leaves away from the father and away from family in pursuit of starting all over again because she's in love, and it doesn't turn out good, which most of the time the second marriage, and the second relationship, it's got a less percentage of lasting than the first one. And then your daughter is experiencing these things over and over again. It causes toxic stress. And then they don't have any kind of supportive family around. that's a recipe for chaos. So some of examples of the stressors are physical and emotional abuse, chronic neglect, caregiver substance abuse, exposure to domestic violence, and then overall financial hardship on the family, which a lot of mothers fall into poverty after getting a divorce with their father because they fall from one income to from two incomes to one. And sometimes the mom was dependent on the father's income, and they were stay-at-home moms, so now they have no skills or anything else, so they're living on their own with no skills or a way to even go to work because they can't afford daycare. So without anyone being there to help that daughter process what is going on, like if she has a grandma nearby and she could just walk down there and just talk it through and kind of just have that, oh, at least I'm gonna see grandma tonight, type of thing, just to process and help her, or an aunt or anybody that really cares about the child. This stress continues to build up in the body of that girl. And this toxic stress response, especially when it's constant, and it comes from multiple sources, whether, from stepfather, from mom's boyfriend, from mom, from school, from being bullied at school by other kids. This can take a serious toll on a girl's physical health. Over time, this could disrupt brain development, organ function, and even immune system response. The more trauma and adverse experiences that girl goes through, the greater the risk of long-term effects in that girl's physical body. These effects in the body could include developmental delays in the brain, heart disease, diabetes, substance abuse, and just lifelong depression, among other physical ailments that a girl can get due to this toxic stress. And just other things you may do when you have fatherless daughter syndrome are things like put up a wall to hide all the pain. You just act like there's nothing wrong, like you got it all together, like you're strong, you done healed yourself, you don't need a therapist. And you do this to protect yourself, or you really might believe you have healed something, but you continue to be depressed and anxious. I used to do this. I would not cry in front of anybody. I would go to the bathroom at work or walk to my car at work and cry, and then had eye drops for my red eyes, to get them back straight before I went inside, before I let anybody see me cry. When someone would ask me, is everything okay? I'd be like, I'm okay. Why are you asking? I would get angry. But the truth is we're not okay, and we do need help. And that way we could be our happy selves we're intended to be and have that peace in our lives. We refuse to ask for help. We become too overly independent. You make sure you never rely on anybody, even if you need help. Sometimes I do this still to where I'm going to figure it out. I'm not going to, even though the answer is as close as ChatGPT nowadays, I don't even do it. I try to figure out myself. I don't want no kind of help, when I could just be making it easier on myself with tools that are out there, books, videos, heck, YouTube University. You just keep pushing yourself to be self-sufficient, but it just ends up to where you just end up failing. And then you have feelings of loneliness, even though you have your independence, you have your own house, you have your own car, you succeeded in life, you make a lot of money. It just, this independence that you created yourself makes you feel more lonely and more isolated and disconnected from others. And it's good to have other friends and people around. We can't just be by ourselves and be like, we don't need nobody, because then we're going to end up by ourselves with nobody around. Some of us fatherless daughters try to push the father wound aside as adults. Many of us suppress the pain of our father's absence. Some of us believe we need to move on or get over it. Some of us fatherless daughters constantly live in survival mode. Most of us are single parents because we failed in relationships. We chose the wrong guy to be our kid's father. So now we're stuck with a full-time job. Most of our money is going to daycare. We are helping with homework. Some of us are in college trying to get ahead. And by the time we get home, we're cooking. So because we can't afford going out to eat, we drink ourselves sometimes at night just to go to sleep. And then we do it all over again the next day. So a lot of us are just surviving. And then lastly on that is we delay healing by staying busy. Fatherless daughters keep ourselves so busy. And I think it's because That way we could never slow down, because we know what happens when we slow down and start thinking about our lives. We start reflecting, and we eventually have to hold people accountable in our lives that we once wanted to think of as very highly of, and we wanted them to be that for us, but they weren't, including, our fathers. But the reality is, if we keep on avoiding it and keep staying busy, this keeps us from healing and living the life we should be living. And I want to advise mothers here. If you broke up with the father of your daughters or daughter, if you got custody of your daughter, please think very carefully before moving away from that father or too far away, because a daughter needs their father around. Now, of course, there's some exceptions. If the father is dangerous, abusive to the child in any kind of way, of course, just move. If the father, there's years that go by and you stuck around for them to be able to see them, and they never seek the opportunity to see them, then of course, by all means, at least you tried. Move where you need to move. But unless this happens, please don't move away from their father. Children need both parents to understand who they really are, and to have that support and love around whenever they go through all the things that kids go through. You remember when you were a child and you went to school, and all the things that you had to go through that you needed support for. This can make a difference in their development and identity. And 18 years, might feel like a long time to you to just be around the father of your children, but it goes by in the blink of an eye, and your children are worth it. Don't be selfish. And after that, when they turn 18, they are adults. They'll be able to take a plane to see him, or drive to see him, or, whatever the case may be. Then you can move away wherever you want, marry whoever you want, date whoever you want. It doesn't matter where you go at that point. If you're planning to get remarried, or you have this special boyfriend you want to move away from your daughter's father with, don't. That should be a deal breaker. If you are dating someone and are engaged, and all of a sudden they say, yeah, we're going to move about, I don't know, this many states away from your daughter's father. That should be a deal breaker. You guys should delay, in my opinion, the wedding. You should delay everything, because your daughters come first. Again, this advice is in situations where the father is loving, is caring, and he's safe for the children, and committed in being part of those children's lives. Fatherless daughters, they have some good characters too that other women don't have. For example, you are an expert in survival because of all the things you went through. You're probably an overachiever, which makes you a great worker and probably get you farther ahead in life than other women. You're a caretaker, and you're able to support others in times of crisis. You, as a fatherless daughter, are such a loyal friend, someone people could truly count on. Some of us fatherless daughters develop leadership qualities at an early age. You have a resilient spirit and don't give up easily. You're incredibly resourceful, which helps out in the workforce. A lot of people are not very resourceful with their time or things they have to do. You can figure things out on your own. You don't have to have a manager over your back telling you what to do. We make really great workers in the workforce. You love deeply. When you care with your whole heart, not like other people. And when you make a promise, you almost always come through. It's just some drastic had to happen for you not to come through with your promise. And you go above and beyond for your friends and family, your partner. Now I want to talk about some ways you could heal fatherless daughter syndrome. The first thing is to acknowledge, it might be obvious, but you need to acknowledge the pain. And basically it's obvious, but it's important because a lot of people are in denial. And until you admit what's going on, you're not going to think there's anything to heal. And you're never going to heal. So it's just about being honest with yourself about what you've been through and how it's affected you not having your father around. And allow yourself to grieve, because a lot of people don't understand that when our fathers are absent from our lives or away from us, it's something very drastic and it's very painful. And a lot of parents, mothers, they're just like, oh, just get over it. Or they don't even realize the daughter is suffering from it. Allow yourself to grieve now. That was a very big thing that happened in your life, a very bad thing that happened in your life. a very painful thing. So allow yourself, if you haven't done that, just grieve, cry. Do what you have to do to grieve that loss from your father being absent in your life. It's a real loss. Seek therapy or counseling. BetterHelp has, from what I've heard, could work with you if you don't have enough money. I think they're on a pay scale, where if you don't make enough, they will work with you. But by all means, please seek help. And if one therapist does not work, go to another one. Not everyone works for you. I've seen therapists that don't do a good job, and the one I have now, she's great. Along with that, I think Dr. John Deloney podcast is a great podcast to watch. He talks about different types of subjects. It's not just fatherless daughter subjects, but some of the concepts to heal or the steps he tells you to heal are the same. So you could get a lot out of that to heal from your fatherless daughter syndrome. A therapist can help you untangle your past, process the pain you went through, and rebuild your self-worth. And just write your story. Journaling or sharing your experience with a trustworthy person that truly cares about you can be powerful, even if that's just your therapist. It allows you to reclaim your voice and practice self-compassion. Be kind to yourself. I know it's hard to say, but one of the things that Dr. John Deloney says, look in the mirror, touch your chest and say, I love this woman right here. Say that every morning, and it makes a difference. The first time I did it, a couple of times when I first started doing it, I didn't want to do it. I just couldn't tell myself that I love myself. But if you keep doing it, it'll become normal, and then you start believing it, and then you really will start loving yourself. And you should. You've come a long way, and look how strong you've been. You did what you had to do to survive. Forget about the past. Forget about the things you did due to your father's absence in your life. It's not you anymore. Now you are learning how to thrive. My therapist talked about but she pulled out some baby blocks, some blocks for toddlers that are magnetic. And she basically told me, look, Tanya, I'm going to show you something. This right here was the foundation you started on. And if I start stacking blocks on top of this foundation, look what happens if I just kind of just tap it. And the blocks fell. And then she showed me the blocks in a different form. She made a bigger foundation. And she said, look, when I put stacks on top of this foundation, and I try to push, well, nothing's going to happen. And basically, she was saying, I started with the small foundation and started stacking too many things on top of it that I couldn't handle. And I needed to unstack those blocks and basically heal and build a bigger foundation before I could go forward with things. And I bought these blocks, and I'm going to leave a link below if you would also like to buy these to remind yourself, because I have them as a reminder now every time I enter my room. I think this is a great tool to use to help you heal your fatherless wound. And just challenge limiting beliefs. Replace thoughts like, I'm not good enough, with truths like, I am worthy of love and happiness, or other positive things out there that you can say about yourself. You could Google it and see positive affirmations, but by all means, do this every day. And another thing my therapist was talking about is my circle of control. And basically what the circle of control consists of is things inside the circle that you are able to control. And if it's something that you can't control, then it's outside your circle and you don't worry about it or even deal with it. I found this this decor in Amazon and bought a light to shine it every night to remind not only me, but my family what is in our circle of control and what is out of our circle of control. That way I could focus on that inside the circle. So I'm going to leave a link also of this decor below and the light that I bought. But this has helped me greatly to remind me of what I'm in control of and not in control of. And it helps me stress less and think about the important things I need to focus on. And learn as a fatherless daughter to receive love and help. Let people show up for you. Okay, you deserve it. Stop saying no when other people are trying to help you or do good. Being vulnerable does not make you weak. I used to think this. Being vulnerable does not make you weak. It makes you human. So allow other people to help you. Please set healthy boundaries. I don't care if, like, I started blocking people because I didn't know how to say no. So if the only way I was able to say no to these people, basically it's not to say no because they were blocked, but if the only way was to block them, that's what I did. Go to great lengths to set your boundaries and keep them that way, just like a big old fence no one could get through. Because right now you need to focus on your healing, your father wound. You can't focus on other people. So if you know they can't contact you, you feel this weight lifted off your shoulders. You need to focus on yourself, even if they haven't done anything terrible, if they're not that close to you, and you know you guys haven't contacted each other in a while. Sometimes it's kind of like decluttering your house. It's like, why have I had this for a year and have not used it? If you want to circle back around and contact these people when you're healed, that's perfectly fine. But only those that have done well to, good to you and are not going to set you back in your healing journey once you get back out there in the world. Break generational cycles. Choose to parent yourself with love and care, something you never received. And connect with others who understand. And that's a big one, who understand. Because even some family members will dismiss your feelings. They will invalidate your feelings, and it will set you back. Go to support groups if you have to, communities, or even trusted friends, because they could help you feel less alone. Celebrate your strengths. You've developed resilience, leadership, and deep empathy. These are such powerful tools for your healing journey. They will help you with your healing. Use them, and also to become very successful in life. And then forgive your father if and when you're ready. And forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting, ladies. It does not. It means letting go of the control pain has in your life right now. Do this for you. Now, I gotta admit, this is very hard when your father is gaslighting you, is not listening, you're going around circles, or you finally feel like you forgave him and he opens up a new wound by saying something else. But just, sometimes you gotta walk away and circle back, but you gotta keep being honest in the conversation with your communication to your father about how he's hurting you and how you still love him. But forgiveness is for you. Just always remember that, and do it only when you're ready. And some books that I was going to talk about. The first one, which got me to start my podcast to begin with, is The Fatherless Daughter Project. This book right here, I could not find any books. I could find many books on fatherless sons, because like I said, fatherless daughters is less talked about. But I finally found this book that explained why I went through, and made the decisions I made. But anyways, I love this book, but I hated it at the same time. Not because of the book itself, because it's great. You guys should get it. Because I felt like, why can't we just prevent this from happening in the first place? And I know we can't prevent everything, every father from being absent. You can't make somebody do something. But this is the reason, one of the reasons why I started my podcast, to bring awareness, to make everyone aware of all the things you need to think about before having children. And the mother you should pick for your child, the father you should pick for your child. You just, you can, but you shouldn't just go out and have children just because. There's got to be some kind of planning, some kind of like interview process, basically, not literally, but you know what I'm saying. Whenever you get to know somebody before you have a child, watch my previous episode about my 5-year rule. That's got great advice there before you have children. But anyways, this book talks about the effects of a daughter not having their father around, and it does have some solutions at the end. Some things you could do that will eventually heal your father wound. So that's one. Um, Another one I have read is The Baby Decision: How to Make the Most Important Choice of Your Life. And I made a whole episode about this. Are you ready to have a child? This is invaluable to read. This is the most important book, I think. I know there's some books, other books out there about this, but this is one that I've read and I really love, that you should read before having a child, okay, to prevent all this childhood trauma. This one right here is for you ladies. Men chase, women choose. And this is the neuroscience of meeting, dating, losing your mind, and finding true love. This goes through what the brain goes through whenever you think you're in love. And it helps you just kind of navigate a relationship better. So that way you won't make as many mistakes. And this is by Dawn Massler, and they call her the love biologist. And then finally, it's a book that my brother gifted me. It's called Solve for Happy: Engineer Your Path to Joy. This is by Mo Wadat, former chief business owner of Google X. And this book is so important for me to talk about, to show you to get, is because he has such a different way to describe happiness and what things really need to be important in your life. He's got a way of describing it that I've never seen other writers do before. And it's actually helping me with my sadness and where to put my perspective, not perspective, but where to look for joy, basically, which is, basically what the book is called, Solve for Happy, trying to find joy in life. But anyways, those are the 4 books that I do recommend. I will have links below as well for the books. And I suggest you buy and read all of them. They really help. And finally, I wanted to talk about when it's too dangerous to talk to your father. Because not all fathers could be talked to. Sometimes the situation is too dangerous, or it might be more harming than good for you. One instance where it might be too dangerous for you to speak to your father if there's a history of abuse or violence. If your father has harmed you or others physically, like your mom, your friends, anybody, if he's violent and still possesses a threat, reconnecting without professional guidance could put you in danger. Do not do it. If your father was sexually abusive to you or others, or had predatory behavior, it's absolutely okay and necessary to protect yourself by keeping a distance. If your dad was severely emotionally or psychologically abusive to you or others. So for example, if he constantly manipulated, gaslighted you, humiliated you, or emotionally tore you down, reconnecting without boundaries or support can reopen deep wounds. If your father is struggling with untreated addiction, as for example, drugs or alcohol, conversations can become unpredictable and unsafe with him. Wait until he's in recovery before speaking with him. And it should be in a safe place. Maybe you take somebody else that you trust, maybe in a safe public place. If your father has unstable mental health that is untreated, that makes him unstable or dangerous, it may not be safe at all to reconnect. If your father has toxic or narcissistic behavior with no accountability whatsoever, so for example, if he refuses to acknowledge his past behavior and blames you or others instead, reconnecting may only lead to just more hurt and disappointment. Or if you're just not emotionally ready. Even if he's not abusive now, if you're still healing and feel too fragile, and this goes with friends and family members, sometimes we're just too fragile, and I talked about this when I was talking about boundaries, to even deal with anybody. It's okay to wait. It's okay to wait. I'm saying that again. Or even decide not to reconnect at all. Because some of us have been damaged so much to the point where we never recover fully. And We have to maintain our lives to a very small circle of people to keep our peace. And if you want to communicate that to him and say, I can't take no more in my life, I forgive you, and, just have that peace about it, you can. But those are the times where you just absolutely shouldn't consider talking to your dad. And with all this, when you talk to your dad, if it's safe and all the things I spoke about, have somebody that's ready on call or at your house or, beside you, that's going to support you no matter what the outcome is going to be, because some fathers could be really ugly to you, or they'll gaslight you to the point where it'll have your healing process just get set back. And you might even fall into a depression. So just have someone that you could speak to afterwards, after the conversation happens, that will be there to support you and that you could lean on and cry with, And that's it, guys. I do want to mention that I may get a compensation for if you click on some of the links below. And with that money, I will invest it back into my channel to continue to spread information on subjects like these to help prevent childhood trauma. And if you don't want to click on the link, that's perfectly fine. All these could be found in Amazon. I'm going to put the description of the book and also the blocks and the decor, the light. So that way you could just search for them in Amazon if you would like. Thanks everyone again for your support, and I'll talk to you soon. And remember, the best gift you could give somebody is your time. Thank you.